What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ash Aurora, and I'm a realtor based out in Virginia, covering DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Today, I am joined by Connor Polser from Movement Mortgage. Connor, what's up, man?
Ash, appreciate you having me out. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while, but I'm glad that we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So for context on what's going on here today as part of this video, we are going to explain what's going on in the housing market. Now, there's been a lot of news, a lot of noise, and sometimes we just need to sift through what's actually going on and what we are seeing in the ground. So we're going to cover a variety of topics, and even if you don't follow the industry, that's okay, because we're going to break it down for you. So let's jump right in. How about that?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's ask the big question. How can you explain what is going on in the mortgage market today for someone who isn't really following it?
That's a great question. And the reality is everything when you're looking through the lens of getting a mortgage, buying a home is going to be super personalized. You know this, you consult with people on a daily, weekly basis about that, but bigger picture, it's probably easiest to look at it through an analogy. If you were to go back a couple of years to where a lot of people would consider the market to have become abnormal compared to the decade before that, you're talking about the pandemic, and you could kind of compare more or less what happened to the prices of gasoline and transportation or cars, right? If you could picture, we had this big, unprecedented, once-in-a-lifetime event happen with the pandemic. And shortly following that, the government came in and they subsidized all the gasoline.
Right.
They said, hey, we've got to make it affordable for people to get around, move from place to place. And in doing so, the gasoline being mortgage rates, they made it incredibly cheap to travel. Now you've got people that are traveling all over the place, spending all types of money with the stimulus checks that they're receiving. And next thing you know, that's going to drive up the cost of everything everywhere, right?
Right.
We've now got a problem with inflation. It's been incredibly easy for people to travel around, get from place to place. And when the price of everything goes up and all of a sudden the government takes that stimulus and that subsidy that they would have put on gasoline and they turn that into a tax, they all of a sudden halt everything that's going on. That's more or less what happened here more recently in the past year or two. And the housing market just went to a grinding halt because not only were the prices of all of the assets, the housing, raised and elevated, we've got lower inventory, which I'm sure you'd be able to kind of talk about here in a minute, but now all of a sudden the gasoline or the driver of being able to get the car or the house, that's expensive too. And so for more or less the past year and a half or so, that's what's been going on in the mortgage world. We've been really trying to find a lot of solutions to help people out as housing appreciated, rates went up along with that. And, I think that we are really just starting to kind of get to the point where people have more or less come to the realization that we're not necessarily going to see things revert back to what we saw a few years ago. But,
Yeah.
I think big picture, that would be a good analogy to consider, but I know that there are going to be a lot of other factors that come into play. One of those I mentioned being inventory. I mean, you'd probably be able to tell us a little bit more about how that relates to the inventory of homes that are out there on the market.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great analogy. I think, with gas, when it became so cheap at the time, people were loading up their cars ready to go. Right. Similarly, when rates fell, it was so cheap to borrow money from banks.
Right.
So that allowed people to just, put in their applications, get the funds, and buy homes, to the point where there was just multi-offer situations, which, sellers were happy because what, let's say, it could be worth an $800K home, suddenly they were getting offers that were going $100K over what it was listed. So now with the inventory, it's interesting because rates are low, but we have a lower supply, but there's still people wanting to move. Now, when people see numbers like, oh, there's 1.4 months left of inventory left, I think it's important to harp on what that really means. So whenever someone sees that number, it's if people stop buying or selling homes completely and there's only 1.4 months of inventory left, that means if people start buying again and not selling anything, it would take 1.4 months worth of homes left over. After that, there is no more homes.
But that inventory, though, it's tied to, in part at least, mortgage rates, if I'm not incorrect. I mean, you see those rates go down further, people are going to start listing their homes more so. They'll see it a little bit closer to when they had purchased the home. They'll be okay with moving. But, you know, by and large, I think a lot of what's going on right now, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, is people made a lot of very quick decisions and jumped into a lot of situations where they might not be a permanent solution for them and their family. Now they're looking to be able to go ahead and move, but they're more or less locked in by the really low mortgage rate and where the house that they purchased currently is because of the inventory levels. I mean, do you think playing into things, does that kind of more or less set up a certain buyer or seller's market dynamic? Yeah,
it certainly does. I mean, we are in a seller's market, right? And for those who aren't familiar, right, there's a buyer's market and a seller's market, of course, because two sides of the transaction. But in a buyer's market, that is when you have so much supply, almost too much supply, and not enough buyers. So that's where, you know, buyers are more incentivized by concessions, price decreases. However, what we're seeing now is quite the opposite, where we have very limited inventory. I think in DMV, last I checked, there was about 1.5 months worth of inventory. Sure. Right, so for a very dynamic moving market, that's not a lot because people are coming and going. But because it's a seller's market, that means there's lower inventory, and even with the rates being as high as they are now compared to a couple of years ago, there's still people wanting to buy, but there's not enough homes out there.
Sure,
you know, and then you bring in sort of the new luxuries. I guess shout out to the likes of Selling Sunset and all those shows that show what luxury homes could look like. Now certain people and first-time buyers especially will, you know, kind of opt out for a reselled home, right? Because it's dated, they have to put in work to it, and rather they just go for a new construction, which, you know, pros and cons of each, but I think it comes down to being realistic with what your goals are for your first home versus what that forever home is.
Well, that was going to be one of the questions that I had for you is, I mean, should you be timing your home search or should you be timing your home sale based on what the market's doing? I mean, it sounds like we've definitely kind of chatted about a few of the problems that are out there.
Yeah.
I know that people are looking for solutions too. So what would some of those be? Would you recommend that somebody should time their home purchase or their home sale around what the market's doing? And if so, or if not, what would be your follow-up kind of on that question?
Yeah, it's like I'm going to give you the it depends answer.
Okay, because we love that answer.
Right, because I think there's a lot of people want to gamify it. Like, this is in the stock market. It's a wealth-generating asset, right? Yeah, you can time it and hope for rates to get better and lower. But ultimately, once you get in, you have a fixed monthly payment. If you got in high, well, you always have the ability to refinance when it gets low and lower your monthly payment. So roundabout way of saying, it really depends on your situation, right? If you have the cash available, and let's say your lease is coming up or you're welcoming a new member of your family, if you have the funds, just, you know, go for it, right? Obviously run the numbers and be realistic. If the right home isn't there for you, that's a different story. But if you're seeing homes come on Zillow, Redfin, you're like, oh, I could really see that. I have the money, but man, the rates just aren't great.
Not there.
Yeah, like why there's no reason to just hold off that opportunity, because when the rates do come back down, what's going to happen is everyone's going to be coming to the likes of you, submitting loan application,
you're going to see a lot of competition,
and it's going to be back to I am paying 20, 30, however much thousands of dollars more than what was actually listed for.
Definitely. And I think that's something that we see in our team in a lot of conversations as well, is really you can't time things. There are too many variables coming into play that nobody would really ever be able to predict what's going to happen with rates or the market. You see it all the time. You know, these high-level executives will come out, make a prediction, and then next week, all of a sudden that's changed tune a little bit. But you know, I think at the root of it, the individual customizable part of the mortgage process and your consultations that you'll have with home buyers and home sellers is really a big key thing to take away when you're looking at getting into the process, right? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned, hey, once you're into housing, you've got a fixed payment. The great news is there are a lot of programs out there that don't necessarily put you into one fixed payment.
Yeah.
We've got stuff that allows you to start out at a lower introductory payment. We've got stuff that will allow you to avoid needing to come out of pocket a large amount. You could get into a home with zero out of pocket with some of these down payment assistance programs. There's a lot of solutions that we have available to us, and so that's as far as your response to, hey, should you time your search, yes or no? That's one of the biggest things that I'm always talking about with people is, we can customize this to fit whatever your needs are, whether that's a certain payment, a certain rate, a certain cash out of pocket, and we can make sure that you're going to be comfortable financially. But really, the biggest answer in at least our team's conversations here this year, and moving forward into 2024, always listen. If the payment and the numbers fit, right, the out of pocket fits. If you like the home and it's the right time, then let's work through and find solutions for you.
Yeah.
If not, of course, then hey, we'll keep in touch. We'll make sure that it is the right time for you at that point. But no, I think that is a lot of really great wisdom that you're kind of dropping little nuggets for people to take as they're just pondering a lot of this stuff. Because it is a really, really difficult topic to just start jumping into researching online like you would in a lot of other areas, right?
Yeah. I want to get back to the programs. I'm going to save that towards the end, but
Okay.
I want to take it to the beginning of the process, right? So we talked about, rates are going down, and as of today, what is today? Today's December 15th.
Yep,
Cool.
yep.
Rates did go back down below 7%.
We saw a huge drop this week, and it's been,
yeah. it's been the lowest
Right.
since July of 2023, right? So
has.
keeping in mind that wintertime is usually an incredibly slow season. Summers, is usually popping off. People trying to move, school districts, all that good stuff. But now that people have moved and rates are starting to drop, what are you seeing from the loan applications side?
Sure, that's a great question, and I think that particularly around our market, around DC, you have to look at it through the lens of, well, it's the capital of the country.
Yeah.
So many people move here for work, whether you're military, whether you're government, whether you're civilian, or coming here for whatever reason. So I really think it's a year-round market in a lot of those regards. But as far as application volume, conversations, and interest that we're having, it's been steady, it's been constant throughout the year, but I think that I could speak for a lot of people that I know and have had conversations with over the past few weeks, and that a lot of us are really seeing an uptick in application volume. We're seeing an uptick of activity going into Christmas, going into the new year, and I've got to say that a piece of that definitely has to do with what the rates have done at different times, but I think a big part of it too is that there's a lot of pent-up demand right now. There are a lot of people that want to buy a home, and you don't buy a home because of the interest rates, right? You buy a home because your family situation has changed, your job situation has changed, just like you were saying. So it's those factors that really drive, I think, a lot of the demand and a lot of the movement on those mortgage applications. And the other piece of it as well, of course, is there is a little bit of an ancillary effect of what are the rates doing? What is the inventory doing, right? What might people have seen on their news feeds as they're kind of scrolling through that stuff. And it's definitely a hot button topic right now. I think I can say that for sure. Not that there are times where it completely, ever really goes away, but it's something that has, I think, been at the forefront of a lot of people's minds for a little while now.
It is interesting because with winter usually being dead, and you're saying that you're seeing movement. For those of you who aren't aware, right, and don't follow the real estate market, spring is the busy season, right? And if you're trying to get ahead of the game, you start in like Jan, Feb time. But the fact that you're already seeing movement now,
right?
No pun intended, because it's movement brokerage.
There you go. There you go. Always with the witty one.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting that you're seeing that traffic now, because what is going to be interesting to see in the months as they play out is, are we going to get back to multi-offer situation, right? With the already limited inventory.
I think that there's no question that we're headed back there at some point for some period of time.
Yeah. I guess sellers might be more incentivized to actually sell. I don't know. It'll be interesting because if they sell it, then they would have to find a new home. And if the rates are there, then they get back into the competition mix of the buyer pool. So I'm curious to know if this allows sellers to put it back on market, but put their homes on market because of the extra cash they could probably make. They're less incentivized to give any discounts or concessions of any sort. So that'll definitely be
I think it will be a several year gradual return to a more balanced inventory level. I mean, that's, what would you say, a normal inventory level? I think that you mentioned it a few minutes ago, but what is a normal, let's say, midsummer, how many months of inventory would the area normally kind of have?
I would say anywhere from 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months, depending on how
it's more of a standard.
On the season.
We're at
how
1.4.
Well,
in that
ballpark.
I think it will be a gradual return as rates do what they may moving forward. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen with them. We talk about with our team, if anyone were to know for sure, they'd be a billionaire because they'd be a bond trader, right? But it's just there's too many variables that come into play. But as those at some point start to track down, people feel more comfortable selling their homes because, they now are more confident there's a place to go. And then we also see there's another really big piece that will be coming into play, I think, at some point in the near mid-future or so, is there's a large portion of the population, Ash, and you'd be able to talk about this probably as well, more on the inventory and the housing side or the real estate side of things. But, that'll be looking at downsizing. They don't need the space. Right, a lot of the boomer generation is starting to get into the age where their kids are up and have been gone for a while now, and they might be getting to the point where they don't need as much space as they have. And so I think that will be another piece that comes into play, being that they have so much of the real estate market, as far as ownership percentage. But it'll be interesting and to see really what ends up happening here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
We talked about rates a little bit, and I think we should break it down. And I know I get this question a lot. I know you do too.
Sure.
But what would you say to someone if they say, "Hey, where are the rates going, Mr. Human Calculator? You're crunching numbers. You're looking at the graphs. Like, where are the rates going?" What would you say to them?
I would tell them that nobody would be able to predict.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. There are way too many variables that go into what the interest rates are going to do. They change every day. They change multiple times a day sometimes. And the best thing that you can focus on is making sure that whatever monthly payment you end up with is going to allow you to set that budget initially and start your search there. And so I think you'd agree with me, and I think most people would agree as well when they ask the question, what they're really asking is not where the interest rate's going to go. What they're asking is, what's my monthly payment going to be when I get into that home? And that's why we look at these numbers as we're putting offers out, right? That's why we make ourselves available outside of that routine, business hour schedule during the week, is so that we can provide this information in a timely manner for people and make sure that they're comfortable and they know as that offer's going out the door, right where that monthly payment, right where that out-of-pocket's going to fall. And I think that's really the question that's being asked there, and that's normally the thought process that I'll try to help walk through when I get that question up front.
You heard it here, folks. It's not about where the rates are going. It's asking, what is my monthly payment? There have been many times, and we've had these conversations with buyers where there's my budget is this, and I'm expecting to pay this. It's like, whoa, let's hold off here. It's not, you're not taking account, unless you have a whole load of cash and you're going on a cash offer.
Right.
In that case, I want to do business with you. But you have to take account for the interest rate. You have the principal payment, the taxes, the insurance. It all adds up, right? And I think there's a disparity in what people think their monthly payment will be by doing basic math versus the actual mortgage calculators that you can use, or better yet, talking to you. So I really like what you said, because I think it should allow people to not look at lenders as, oh my God, they're banks, I can't give my information. Actually, you want to provide them information so they can give you that point in time snapshot of what a monthly payment looks like if there's a rate, right?
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And for, anyone who tells you where rates are going, don't listen to them. It's a recommendation, but it's not anything with certainty, because no real estate professional can predict where it's going. If they did, that person or group of people would be a hell of a lot richer. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to note that, keep a pulse on the market, or at least talk to real estate professionals who do this for a living. Yep. But talk to the likes of you to get what that monthly payment could look like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And like we were talking about a few minutes ago, and like we could probably go on about for hours, there are so many different details coming into play, so many different parties that come and touch the transaction at some point when you're buying a house, that, it's the reason that I really believe in the profession, and I think that real estate could never be something that's taken over or fully automated.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be a picture on the wall of your family. That makes it an emotional process. There are always going to be questions. When I'm at a hospital, I want a doctor to walk by my bed and talk to me and see how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And during such a stressful process, I think that it's really important to understand that the further ahead of time you can engage with and start building that relationship with a professional that can help accomplish those goals for you, the better off you're going to be, 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
I would really stand by that.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's start. Oh,
nope. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
to interrupt you.
I want to actually, in that same vein, I want to actually talk about first-time home buyers.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
I know we started talking about programs, and I actually want to ask, experienced buyers, they've probably seen different real estate cycles. They've seen the low rates, they've seen the high rates, they've seen the moderate rates, right?
Yep.
But for someone who has never owned a home, they're renting for a while, they have been, and they're kind of paying attention to the market, but there's all this news of interest rate is this, super expensive, prices are high, what are some of those incentives?
I got really excited about going to buy a house. My cousin told me at Thanksgiving it's a really bad time, and now I'm doubting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's understandable that there's doubt. This is arguably going to be the largest purchase in your life.
Right.
$400,000 or $500,000 for a home is not cheap.
Sure.
Right. So I know there's different programs that get buyers money and essentially more artillery to work with when going into the home buying process. So what are some of your most prevalent ones? And I guess let's contain this to the DMV area, since that's where most of our folks are at.
Definitely appreciate where you're coming from. And the reality is that there are a lot of different tools out there, a lot of different products that can help out. I talked about a minute ago, there's products that would allow you to start out with a lower introductory payment until whatever point rates might come down. There are different programs out there that can help cover your down payment and your closing costs. You can get into a home with zero out of pocket at the closing table, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
There's all the way down to very specific products that for certain groups, putting certain amounts down on a place, you could get lower mortgage insurance, you can get preferential interest rates. There's so much that's out there and available that I would really say the biggest advantages that you could look to take advantage of are going to come from identifying what the goals are and then matching that up with the solutions from there.
Yeah.
But to answer your question in short, yeah, there's stuff that can help you get into a home without any money out of pocket. There's stuff that can help lower the rate for certain groups. There's stuff that can lower certain pieces of your payment, right? There are even programs out there, such as the state of Maryland offers some that will pay off student debt for you if you buy a house there.
Dang.
There's a lot that is out there, and it depends on where you're buying a house, what your housing history looks like, what your personal situation looks like. But those are some of the different programs and products that are out there that we use on a very, very regular basis for people.
Yeah. I feel like we'll need a separate conversation just on loan products, because I remember when we were at an open house, you told me there's certain loan products that cover renovation costs.
Yep.
So you don't have to take out a HELOC, or second mortgage. It's
just can roll that in there and walk out the other side with a newly renovated basement, back, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That you should be looking at.
That is awesome.
We could absolutely, have a full conversation about about the different products that are out there. It might put some people to bed, but just let me know. I'm happy to come back.
I know we can nerd out about.
That's what I'm here for, man.
I love it.
No problem.
Yeah, you were gonna ask something before I cut you off.
No. So I think you talked about the buyers versus seller market. You talked a lot about the inventory. If you were to find yourself, let's say you're a buyer, you're a home buyer, first time home buyer, right? Just since we were on the topic a minute ago, and you're looking to try to purchase a home, what types of different tools or strategies, what are you really saying up front to help prepare? And I mean, are you able to win bids, win offers, get reduced prices, or get concession back from seller? What even is concession from seller? What type of steps can you take when you're coming in from that standpoint?
Obviously going to work with a real estate professional who knows this inside and out.
Absolutely.
But putting my realtor hat on, what I typically look for buyers, if they're strapped for cash, I think key metrics like how long has the home been on market. If it's been a while, are the sellers willing to budge and maybe give some concessions back? Right. I would also just look at what different price points get me the type of home I want. I think it's so important for the buyer to know the lifestyle they want or have and want to maintain, because ultimately you're going to have your house, you're going to spend a lot of your time in it, you're going to sleep in it, all that good stuff. But ultimately you still have a life to live. You still have to go work. You still have to do your fun activities with family, friends, so on and so forth. So you want an area or something that's just conducive to your living and your lifestyle. So days on market, the area itself. Let's see, when I was a buyer, what else did I look for? I think conveniences. I know for me, I like having a gym and grocery store close by. So having proximity is a big deal for me. And I'm in a condo right now, so it's nice on me because I'm a single guy. Any ladies, if feel free to DM.
I had to put the plug in.
I have to put the plug in. But I don't need a full home to maintain. So I like the conveniences of, let's say, a condo building. So that narrowed my search down, and it allowed me to have a not as high of a budget, which is good. So I think those would be some of the.
Do you think people can really have those preferences and still win properties in the seller's market if you're a buyer?
Absolutely.
It's still feasible. It's still on the table.
It's still possible. It just comes down to the creative deal making. And that's why there's a lot of trust that needs to be had with lenders such as yourself and realtors such as me, because I'm not just opening lockboxes here, right? There's something to be said about knowing the agents you're working with, knowing their negotiation strategy, having your negotiation strategy on point, depending on the situation, on the property, and there's just a lot of factors that go into a creative deal, right? And I think that goes underlooked. But roundabout way of saying, buyers can still win in this market. It's just a matter of having the courage to ask the right questions and to start the process. But also, going into this a little bit emotionless. Now, it's an emotional process. However, if it's a competitive market, which you already said you're seeing signs of, there are going to be times where an offer gets rejected. You may have the best structured deal, but if an investor comes in with $800K in cash, the seller's probably going to take that. So there's just some factors that are outside of our control.
Well, but it's like you said as well. I think there are a lot of instances where what you were saying about who you work with being so important. I absolutely feel that's true, because we earlier this year have worked with people. We were able to win deals over cash offers in that situation because we're able to close just as quickly, as fast as the title company can move, and understanding that, having that conversation, that communication between all the parties involved, and making sure that everyone's on the same page as far as, hey, this is going to close. It's going to close for you as quickly as anyone else would be able to move is, something that could be said there for sure. So I would challenge you on that one. I'd say we can compete with some cash offers.
Yeah. Hey, that's good. I need that on my team. So, all right, this has been an awesome conversation, and I know we can go on for hours.
We just got advised that we hit the 30-minute mark. We just
Yeah, you know, we got to go eat, got to feed the team. So,
Yeah.
let's close out here. So Connor, how can people get in touch with you? Like, what's the best way to find you, ask you questions, whether it's monthly payment, whatever it may
Great question. Probably the easiest way to find all of my social media pages, my business pages, website, and everything would just to be search my name, Connor Pulser, Movement Mortgage on Google or whatever search engine you prefer to use, and you'll be able to find all that stuff there. On Instagram, on Facebook, very easily reachable by any of those avenues. So I'd say that probably is the easiest way to reach out.
Hit us with the handle. What's the handle?
So the Facebook, you just be able to search my name. The Instagram is C Pulser. That's C last name Pulser, and then official. So you'll know
officially official.
There's only one of them out there.
He's officially the only. I feel like you need like a own Vivo type thing.
It's been around for a while. It works. It fits. Yeah. And so that would be the best way to get a hold of me.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Perfect. Well, Connor, thanks, man, for joining.
Hey, thanks so much.
Let's go get some grub. Thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Definitely.
Take it easy, everyone.